My name's Mark Newstetter. Welcome to my channel. Today I would like to talk about some of the basic essential things that you need to know when you start playing the guitar. Or at least I think these are things you need to know when you start playing the guitar. Now let me tell you a little bit about myself first. I have been playing guitar since the age of 9. I am about to turn 66 years old, a very scary thought. But that means I've been playing guitar for 57 years. I started gigging at the age of about 17 in Greenwich Village in New York City. I've been playing ever since. I have given somewhere between 25 and 30,000 one-on-one private guitar lessons, 1-hour lessons. And I've had hundreds and hundreds of students. Now, I am the first to admit I do not know everything. And there are a lot of different opinions on many subjects when it comes to the guitar. So we each have our own point of view on some of these things. So if I say something in this video that contradicts something you've heard somewhere else, well, we'll have to fight it out, right? So right now, though, there are a few things that I think everybody can agree about on the guitar. I think everybody can agree when you play the guitar, you really want to know the names of the parts of the guitar, the basic structure of the instrument itself. You have the head of the guitar, tuners, the neck with fretboard. Frets are these vertical, they run perpendicular to the neck, the nut. And at the other end, the saddle. The saddle is in the middle of the bridge, and the strings are held in place by these bridge pins. So some of them, this is the pick guard, guitar pick. That's a guitar pick. What else? The soundboard. This big flat piece of wood here. Sound hole in the middle of it. That's where the sound, after bouncing around inside the guitar, the sound comes out of the hole. The back of the guitar. All that stuff you want to know. Now, you may already play a little bit, but you haven't been playing for very long, and there's a few things you feel like you need to really get more clarity about. Or you've never played the guitar and you're just getting started and you haven't even taken your first guitar lesson, and maybe you already have a guitar. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't even already have a guitar. Well, stick around. There might be something that you find helpful. But like I said, even if you've been playing guitar for a while, there may be a few things that you missed when you got started that you need to sort of go back and review. So hopefully you'll find something interesting as well. You can be playing for a while and you wish, wow, I wish I had learned that when I started. Now, I have experienced that many times. I wish I had learned that when I started. And, that seems to be a very common experience for people playing the guitar. They wish they had learned whatever when they got started. Now, there are a lot of things that I learned after I got started, because I started the way most people start. And, back when I started playing guitar, there was no internet. I just went to the local community center. I took 2 guitar lessons. I figured out the rest of it by trial and error. And then I realized I was doing everything pretty much the wrong way. When I started hanging out with people who really could play, I learned that way. I learned by going out and starting to play gigs and picking things up. I would just sort of attach myself to anyone who could really play if they would let me tag along, and I learned whatever I could. You need to know how to tune your guitar. You need to know the notes when you tune your guitar. The lowest pitch string is E, A, D, G, B, E. And you want to learn them both directions. In other words, you want to say them in both directions. You don't want to just go E, A, D, G, B, E, and then you're done. You want to also know E, B, G, D, A, E. E, B, G, D, A, E. You want to know that. That should kind of flow off your tongue fairly easily. You shouldn't have to think about it too much. You want to say it to yourself over and over again until you really know it. Now, you also want to know that the lowest pitch string is referred to typically as the bottom string, and the highest pitch string is referred to typically as the top string. If you say, okay, this is the top, and you say this is the bottom because the top is closer to the ceiling and the bottom is closer to the floor, well, that makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, the top is closer to the ceiling, so this must be the top of the neck. This must be this must be the top string because it's closer, it's higher up off the floor. This must be the bottom string because it's closer to the floor. But no. The lowest pitch string is the bottom string. The highest pitch string is the top string, because we are thinking about music when we play the guitar, and we are thinking about the musical meaning of the words we use, the musical significance of the words we use to describe what we're doing, as much as possible. And when you have a word or a terminology that is contradictory to the musical idea, then you have to make a decision. What is more important, the musical idea or the physical direction that the strings are positioned in? Well, the musical idea has to win. So if you buy a pack of strings, very often on the package they will refer to the bottom string and the top string. The string makers get this right. You will not see a package of guitar strings that ever refers to the lowest pitch string as the top or the highest pitch string as the bottom. The reason I'm going on and on about this is because you will find a lot of people get this wrong. The physical position of the string has nothing to do with what we call it. There are plenty of aspects of music that refer to up, down, high, low, top, bottom that are not referring to physical direction but to pitch. And if you refer to physical direction using a word that contradicts the idea of the music, you're asking for trouble. You're just going to get confused. We don't want that kind of confusion. We don't care that this is closer to the ceiling and this is closer to the floor. We have to filter that out. When you go up in pitch, you're going toward the top musically. When you go down in pitch, you're going toward the bottom musically, tonally, in terms of pitch. And that's what we care about when we talk about the tuning of the strings and the identity of each string. Now we also number the strings. The lowest pitch string, the bottom string, is string number 6. The highest pitch string is string number 1. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Those are the numbers of the strings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can think of string number 1 as the number 1, which is on the top. The top is number 1. You are number 1 if you're on the top. If you aren't playing the major scale on a single string, you're missing a very important idea of how the scale is structured. Now, the way scales are structured, it's not just a matter of, okay, I put my finger here, I put my finger there, I put my finger there, and I just have to remember where to put my fingers. It's not just about remembering where to put your fingers, but it's also about knowing how the scale is structured, and that will tell you where to put your fingers, not the other way around so much, right? So how are scales structured? You have to know what the intervals are between the notes. Think of the notes as stops along the journey of getting from one note to another. Music is motion. Music is time. Music is movement. There is something that connects all the notes, the distances between the notes. We call those intervals. So you really want to think about intervals. What are the intervals of the scale? So the intervals of a major scale, you play the first note. That by itself is not an interval. When you go from the first note to the second note, that is an interval. The distance from 1 to 2, from C to D, that's a whole step. If you are on a single string and you skip a fret and you go to the one after that, we're going to call that a whole step. So you play a whole step, C, D. You play another whole step, C, D, E. And then you have a half step, C, D, E, F. 4 notes. Follow the yellow brick road, right? 4 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. C, D, E, F, E, D, C. That is the first 4 notes of the major scale. Whole step, half step. Notice I am playing each note with a different finger. using one finger at a time, and I am plucking the notes with the pick. You can do all downstrokes like this, or you can go down and then up and then down and then up. Not a bad idea to practice that. There are a lot of ways to organize, whether you're picking down and up or whether you're just doing downstrokes. Try all of those things. You could even go up, up, up. You want to experiment with that. Now, that's only half of the scale. What's happening here is by playing the first four notes of the scale with these four fingers, this reveals the structure of the scale very clearly. The first four notes, whole step, half step, have the same pattern as the next four notes. C, D, E, F is whole step, half step. G, A, B, C is also whole step, half step. And there's a whole step between F and G. So we have two four-note sequences. I actually give people that scale on their first lesson. The key of C is really the sort of the neutral ground for understanding music theory. It's the basic starting point. It's the foundation, the key of C. What that means is we start with 7 letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those 7 letters of the alphabet are the primary note names that we give the notes in the musical system that we have. And then, depending on the key, we can attach a sharp or a flat to one or more of the notes. The key of C is the simplest theoretically, but in fact, all of the keys follow the same structure. So even though the key of C is more accessible because the terminology is simpler, there is no difference between the way the key of C works and the way every other key works. They all work the same way. They all have the same interval structure, and they all have the same chord structure. The only difference from when you go from one key to another is you will get higher or lower in pitch, and the names of the notes will include some certain number of sharps or a certain number of flats. So you also need to know that in basic key structure, you will never have sharps and flats. The keys either will have sharps or flats, or it will be the key of C where there are no sharps and no flats. And the key of C is the only key that has no sharps and no flats, and that's why it's the template, it's the starting point. So if you start with the key of C and you want to know where the key of C is on the guitar, well, if you have any familiarity with the piano, you look at a piano keyboard and you have the white keys and the black keys on the piano keyboard. The white keys are the key of C. You just don't play anything but the white keys and you're in the key of C. On the piano, if you want to play in other keys, you need to play some combination of white keys and black keys, unless you're in the key of C. On the guitar, how do you know where the key of C is? You can't see the key of C. You can't see any of the keys. You can't know just by looking at the guitar fingerboard, which is hard enough to see the guitar fingerboard while you're playing because you have to look around. It's very awkward. So the more you can visualize where the notes are, the better. And visualizing where the notes are on the guitar means knowing, first of all, how the key of C is structured, because if you want to really play this instrument and you want to learn how to play it as in the most efficient and in the most sort of expedient way, you want to know how the fingerboard works. There are a few things that will simplify the process of learning how to find your way around the fingerboard. One of those is naming the open strings, but also the notes on the 5th fret and the notes on the 10th fret. You want to know the names of those notes. The open strings, E, A, D, G, B, E, or E, B, G, D, A, E. The notes on the 5th fret, A, D, G, C, E, A, or A, E, C, G, D, A. A, D, G, C, E, A. Back the other way. A, E, C, G, D, A. the notes of the 10th fret. D, G, C, F, A, D, D, A, F, C, G, D. So what's so special about the three positions I just mentioned, the open strings, the 5th fret, and the 10th fret? What's so special about those positions? You have literally half of the notes belonging to the key of C within that range of fret positions. In other words, from the open strings to the 12th fret, half of the notes belonging to the key of C are the open strings, the 5th fret, the 10th fret, and the 12th fret. That's 24 note positions. There are 48 note positions belonging to the key of C in that same range. Out of 48 notes, or 48 note positions, because some of the notes are duplicates. In other words, C is here, 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 and then there's another one there. If you want to be able to find all those notes with absolute certainty, you need to have reference points on the fingerboard that are easy to remember and easy to keep track of. So those fret positions give you half of the notes you are looking for. If you can memorize the names of the notes in these 4 fret positions where they line up, you don't have to go searching around for notes on the fingerboard. You have them, they line up for you in these fret positions. And that's half, literally, half of the notes on the fingerboard that you need to learn. Half line up for you. They line up. The other notes don't line up. In the other positions, the notes are not all lined up for you. So why not learn those first? Why not learn the notes that line up and then fill in the gaps? You have reference points all over the fingerboard then, and you can find those other notes much more easily. This is not advanced music theory. This is notes lining up for you. That's what's so special about those positions. I have never met anyone, and I don't think you will ever meet anyone, who once they learn how music theory works and once they learn how to find the notes on the fingerboard will ever regret having done it. Nobody will ever say, you will never hear anyone say, oh man, I played so much better before I learned all that stuff, before I learned all that theory and before I learned to name the notes. I played so much better because I was just playing by feel. Now I can't do that. Nobody will, no, no, you don't lose. If your ability to play with feeling is real, you will not lose your creativity if you know what to call stuff, if you know how to describe what you're doing in basic musical terms. So don't let anyone tell you different. Now I want to talk a little bit about how you hold the guitar when you play. Your right arm is going to push the guitar against your leg, your right leg. You put some weight on that side, put some weight there, and push the guitar into your leg. You should be able to move the guitar a little bit. You should be able to be relaxed and move around in this position. And you notice I'm not using my left hand to support the guitar or to hold it in place. You should be able to move your right hand while still supporting the guitar. Some of us like to cross our legs when we play, hold the guitar this way. You're still pushing against the guitar with your right arm and letting sort of the elbow, the hinge of your arm, the hinge of your elbow, so that you can swing your arm around and like a windshield wiper and get some movement that way. And then you're holding the pick. You want to hold the pick in a way that allows you to pluck the strings comfortably. And I have my own method of holding the pick. A lot of people do it this way. You notice that if you have a standard size and shape guitar pick, that it has one pointy corner and it has a couple of less pointy corners like that. And most people hold the guitar pick in a way that the point is sticking out, and that's what they're using to pluck the strings. I personally, and people in my camp, hold the guitar pick in a way that the point is now pointing toward my palm, and I'm going to let the guitar pick stick out just a little bit, and I'm using one of the rounder corners to pluck the strings. Don't let the pick stick out too far. You don't want to find yourself like that, like where the pick sticks out really far like a spatula. You want the pick to just sort of extend out of from your grip just a little bit, just enough, and you'll have more control that way. Let the pick just kind of follow your hand as you strum, right? So you're strumming down and up. We're going to talk about the movement of the right hand as a downstroke and an upstroke. In this case, we are talking about the physical direction because we're talking about the movement of the hand. We're not talking about the notes themselves per se. We're not talking about the notes. We're not talking about the strings themselves. We're talking about the movement of the hand. So this is a downstroke. That's an upstroke. And think of it like sort of like a paintbrush. You're letting the pick follow your hand as you strum. And it doesn't, like, I'm not going to play any chords and it's going to sound a little messy. That's okay. Just get a sense of it. And as you kind of experiment with that, now allow the pick to just hit one string at a time and see what happens if you let the pick bump into the string and get stuck against the string. It bumps into the string, gets stuck against the string. So it's not, you're not holding the pick. You're not holding the pick in the air. We don't want to do this every time, right? Like where you pluck the string and then pull your hand away. That's going to make it hard to find the string again, right? So just see what happens if you let the pick just rest on the string each time. Let it rest on the string. Get a sense of how you can connect with the guitar that way. As you do this, think rhythmically as well, because it's not just about the notes, it's also about the rhythm, the timing of the notes. So you're gonna go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and ba da tick da ba. Now you may use a metronome that goes tick tock, tick tick, right? That's one way to do it. You can use the thumb going this way. Maybe the index finger coming the other way. As you use your left hand to play chords, one thing to keep in mind is that you don't want to find yourself gripping the neck. You're not always going to be squeezing the neck to play chords, right? Because if you do that, it's going to be hard to move your hand around, right? So like if you're playing a chord and you're really just gripping and squeezing, you have to relax your hand before you can play the next chord. So how do you play chords and move the hand around without gripping, without just really being tense? How do you keep your hand relaxed as you play? One way to do it is to not rely on the thumb for pressure. I'm playing bar chords, right? This is a bar chord. Now, I don't usually play like that. Most of us don't play like that with the thumb sticking out here. We want the thumb to be part of the equation, but you do not rely on the thumb and the grip for all the pressure. How do you do it? Try just placing a single finger on, just pick any string. I just happen to pick the 5th fret of the 5th string, that's a D. We'll go up and down the 5th fret with the index finger, the first finger. Fingers on the left hand are numbered. First finger, second, third, fourth. First, second, third, fourth. Fingers on the right hand get names: thumb, index, middle, ring. If you go first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, you can go without the thumb, first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. Or you can play the same note with each finger without the thumb. And this will give you a sense of how you can apply pressure to the strings without gripping. Now, how am I doing that? I'm holding the guitar on this side. I have a good secure grip, and I can move the guitar around like this. I can kind of hinge the guitar around. I'm not going to lose my grip on the guitar on this side. I've got a good solid grip. And then when I put my finger here, I'm pulling the strings against the fingerboard. I'm actually pulling as if I'm trying to wrap the guitar around me. I want to just take this guitar and just bend it around me like this. Just pull it against me, right? Now, the bottom edge of the guitar, by the way, this edge of the guitar is not pressed all the way in. So you're not like this, right? But you're more like that. So that way you can get a really good solid grip. And then when you press, right, I'm pulling against the fingerboard. I'm pulling my fingers into the strings. Pulling this way, pulling back with my right side, and pulling back with my left side. Bending the guitar around me. Now, my hand is actually more relaxed that way than it would be if I were squeezing and gripping. Sometimes you do want to, strangle the guitar. Sometimes you just want to strangle the guitar, but even then, my thumb is around. But I'm not really squeezing, I'm really tugging, pulling, and a little bit of pressure that way, a little bit of squeeze, but mostly pulling, mostly using leverage to press on the strings. When you have that established, you can, your fingers have a lot of strength in this sort of claw shape, in this curved position. You get your fingers curved, like that, and keep them that way. If you have ever done any climbing, you can support your body weight with a single finger for a certain amount of time. You can have enough strength in your fingers without squeezing or gripping the strings to push that tiny thin string the 0.5 millimeter it has to go to press against the fret. So it doesn't require a lot of strength. It doesn't require a lot of grip. A lot of people use way more force than they need to, grip and tighten their hand way more than they need to. A few other little important bits of information about the left hand. When you play the guitar, your left hand is going to be palm up. It's like you're extending your hand and you're waiting for somebody to put something in it. That's how you play the guitar, because you're going to spend a lot of time, if you play the guitar for long enough, you're going to spend a lot of time like that, waiting for someone to put something in your hand. You want your hand to be comfortable in this position. You want to get it to where you don't feel like this is an effort to hold your hand like this. And if you wanted to turn it this way, would it want to go that way, or would it rather stay like that? You see, we want the hand to be comfortable in this position. Now, most of us spend most of our time with our hands like this. And when you have your hands like this, say like you're playing, piano, who plays piano? When you're like on your computer keyboard, or you are just kind of sitting down comfortably, or you're driving your car, or whatever, your hands are going to be like this most of the time. Most of us do not spend our time with our hands like this. Now, you notice what I did to get my hand palm up is I rotate it from the shoulder. From the shoulder, right? So my shoulder is rotating. I am not going to turn my hand over like that, because you can, when you do that, what happens is all of the stuff, well, actually it's the left hand for the guitar. The right hand wants to be over, right? You want the right hand to be over. You want the left hand to be under. And see what I'm doing is I'm moving my upper arm, my shoulder, from here to here. You stick your elbow out like you're gonna, right? Stick your elbow out, and then like that, like you've just lost in arm wrestling, like that, right? And you have, wow, that's painful. Okay, but you see, that's not painful because my hand wants to be this way now, because I'm going to play guitar, right? Instead, because I don't want to, arm wrestle with anybody. I just want to play the guitar. If you turn your hand over by rotating it like that, like, so let me get my hand back this way, right? So now my hand is this way. If I wanted to turn my hand over, wow, it's like I feel like I'm really twisting my arm around. And because there's two bones, there are two bones in here, right? Two bones. There's the ulna and the radius. And that's how you are able to, say, open doorknobs and stuff, like that, right? But when we play the guitar, we don't want the hand in this position where it's already twisted around. We want the hand in a position where your shoulder is rotated so that the two bones in your arm, instead of being twisted around each other like that, right, which is what happens when you do this, instead of them being twisted around each other, they're still parallel. Those two bones in the upper arm here, or in the forearm, this is the forearm, between the elbow and the wrist, that part, those two bones are lined up in a straight line, and all the muscles that move your fingers then are relaxed and in a straight line. If you twist around, all the muscles that move your fingers get very tight because they're wrapped around those two bones, and they're going to tense up, and it's going to be harder to play. So we need to get the palm up by rotating from the shoulder and getting into a comfortable position where your shoulder has adjusted the position of your arm. You may need to experiment with that a little bit. Just kind of shrug your shoulders, rotate from the shoulder, and get to where your palm is up, and it wants to be that way. Because then you can keep your hand relaxed and open. If your fingers are pressing together, if that's like the natural position for your hand and it wants to be that way, got to work on that, right? You want your fingers to be relaxed and open, so that when you play chords, you can reach those notes, right? When you play scales, you don't want to have your hands close together, so you have to move every time. Now, one really good sort of biofeedback method, I guess, I don't know, it's a mechanical process, is if you start with your hand like this, and you get it sort of with the fourth finger, pinky, fourth finger on the first fret, and then you reach as far as you can comfortably reach, or maybe a little further with your first finger, your index finger, but it's the first finger on the left hand, the first finger. Now I'm reaching from the first fret to the sixth fret now. And I don't want to bend my wrist too much either. I want to try to keep, you don't want to try to like do that. That's bad for your wrist. Keep it relatively straight as much as you can. So now I've got my hand like that. Now I want to keep my hand in that position. I want to keep it open when I let go of the neck, right? When I take my hand off the neck now, I'm going to keep my hand open like that. And I'm going to keep it open like that the whole way around. I'm going to reach my hand way out to the side here. I'm going to reach way out to the side, and I'm going to bring it around in the front, and I'm going to bring it back to where it was. And then notice my thumb is going to be sticking out too for this exercise. This is an exercise. And I'm going to put my hand back where it was, and wow, it wants to get tighter. It's really, because reaching under like that really, so, but I can find a way to do it. I can kind of cross my legs like this, and I can get like that, and I can just about reach it. And just as an exercise, if I can get comfortable like this, if I can keep my hand open like that, and just kind of find a relatively relaxing, it's always going to want to be a little, isn't that strange? It's always going to want to close up a little bit. But now I've got my hand pretty much wants to stay like this. I'm not going to push it too much. I'm just going to get comfortable, because all you really need most of the time is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. You want your hand to fit in 4 spaces. Each finger gets its own fret. That's the kind of default position. And if you extend beyond that, then you may have to adjust your posture when you do that. You may have to connect the movement of your fingers, not just to the fingers themselves. The fingers don't end here. The fingers go all the way to your elbow, and maybe even to your shoulder, and maybe to your neck. The movement of your fingers is going to connect all the way to the middle of your back when you play. So you want to access that. You want to be aware of that when you play. There's no time like the present. These are a few things that I consider essential, and I have noticed that a lot of people, even after playing for many years, haven't learned. Sometimes it's all about filling in gaps as you learn, as you progress. If you have any thoughts, any ideas, if you think there's something I forgot to mention, please let me know. Please like the video, okay? All right? You like the video, right? Like the video, subscribe to my channel, share this video. That would be great if you did that. That would just be really, I would just say thank you if you did that. So there's no time like the present, and there's no present like the time. See you next time.